Hi, I'm Will Hillenbrand, and I'm happy to be your visiting author here today at Monroe Elementary. These are some of my books. I've done 62 books, 60 in print, and some of these books that I'm holding will be books I'm going to be talking to you about or have talked to you about. I want to thank you for having me here at school, and I hope I've been able to inspire you to be able to create your own art, do your own writing, and to be able to discover more about this wonderful world we live in. Thank you for having me. Today is the birthday of one of our presidents. And does anybody know the name of that president? He was born in Kentucky. His first name is Abe. And his last name is What is that? It's at Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln. And the book I'm going to talk to you about today is called The Journey of the One and Only Declaration of Independence. Now, this drawing, I just did a quick sketch on my iPad, and if we were to do Abe Lincoln, so try to do Abe, let me see. So Abe would look like this. He's got this like wild hair and these huge ears. He's a little thinner here. But anyway, I'm not sure. I'd have to take a look at it to be able to get it just right. Does anybody have, what's he on? Yeah, he would look like this on pennies. Well, never mind. Good morning, everyone. How are you? I do a lot of drawing on my iPad for the books that I do now. And some of those drawings I'm going to show you here. Maybe you can see a sequence of them here. Maybe we should take a look. At. Well, here's a bear. You want to see that bear? Which bear are you going to sleep? We got some sleeping bears. Yeah, I drew them here on the iPad. Well, here's kind of an interesting one here. Actually, here. No, wait. Come back. That one. It's going to take a while for just a second for it to come up. But I drew it with my pressure-sensitive Bluetooth pen. And this is a little bit of a complicated drawing. So it's taking a while to be able to fit it. So now you can see it right here. And if I were to draw, I can change the width of my stylus here. Make that go away. I can change it to this. So make that go away. And then I can change it to that. It's quite thin. And so let's just say that Caterpillar had a beard, had an Abe Lincoln beard. I have to draw this upside down, so here we go. Isn't that silly? Yeah, no, it's really silly. But I actually do my drawing. So I draw traditionally, but I do a lot of my drawings now with this. The application I use is free. It's called Adobe Sketch. And this costs, well, this would have to be a Christmas present probably for you. It's about $100. Well, but you're not paying anything for the application. And you're creating priceless work. You're not going to buy any new paper, right? And you're not going to buy any crayons because it's all the colors are here. You don't see some colors. We've got colors here. We've got colors here. And I can create colors here, too. That's your palette. You can do all that kind of stuff with this. And so, at any rate, I show you a little drawing I was working on last night. I was at a concert. And here. It was at St. Peter and Chains Cathedral, and downtown Cincinnati, and it was the choir from St. Olaf College. So I'm going to go back to my color palette here and take this. So here I can add, should I add a few leaves to this tree? No. Okay, so let's do that. So anyway, I love to draw. If you still love to draw, raise your hand. All right, hands down. I don't mean that everybody maybe still loves to draw, but I've never stopped. And I love a good story. If you love a good story, well told, raise your hand. If you were born in the state of Ohio, raise your hand. If you woke up in the state of Ohio, raise your hand. If you woke up in the state of Ohio this morning, raise your hand. And if you didn't, if you woke up, well, never mind. We have those things in common. And so we have a large presentation because the book I'm going to talk to you about is this one, which is called The Journey of the One and Only Declaration of Independence. So let me put this down. We should probably have the lights up just one more step so they can see this. So, if you have ever traveled to Washington, D.C., gone to the National Archive building, and have seen the one and only Declaration of Independence, raise your hand. Wow, quite a few of you. Now, I hope all of you at some point will. You remember it, right? You never forget what you know. And the Declaration of Independence, in this book that I've illustrated, well, it's right here. Now, do you remember when you saw it? Could you read it? Pretty hard. The words are barely there. And this document, this is the actual size of it. Well, you don't see all of it, but it's about 2 feet wide by 2.5 feet tall. It's not a law. There's nothing inside this that compels us to do anything. It's a declaration of separation from Great Britain. Which means we didn't like when they could have a soldier. Soldiers could come to your house, ask you to leave, and sleep in your bed, and eat your food. And you'd have to leave. It did happen. But you know what? Our citizens didn't like that. That's what's in the bottom part of this declaration. Along with, we'd like to be representing ourselves. We're paying taxes, we'd like representation, and they said no. So there's some grievances, things that we felt should happen. But then at the very beginning we did something different. We wrote a preamble, which meant that we're going to be a separate country, and we are going to do this country thing differently. That's what makes this declaration an incredibly different kind of document. And it makes us different people. Now, before there was a declaration, you didn't have the name you have now. Now you're a citizen. Before the declaration, you had a different name. You would have had a different name. You would have been a subject. I'm not talking about going down to math for subject, but you would have been called a subject. You were the subject of the king, the queen. We're not subjects. We're citizens. And this isn't anybody's history. This is our history. Now, of all history that you will learn, I hope you learn lots. This history includes you. And because it does, it's worth knowing better. Better than when you learn it here in school. Should be more. Learn it by going to the library and reading about someone that helped make this happen. Now, if you can think back to the revolutionary times and the founding fathers, and if you could have dinner with your favorite founding father, Abraham wasn't a founding father. Who would it be of the founding fathers? Who would you have dinner with? Yes? George Washington. What end that? What end with that? Because that's how I would have dinner. I've been to his home in that part. And I've read books and books about George Washington because, well, without George, we wouldn't. Imagine if George owned property nearby here. That's how he got paid for the war. Yes, he surveyed this area. And he loved it so much that he wrote it in a journal. And when the Congress read his journals, and they found out how should we pay him, he didn't want to be paid. They paid him in the land that he thought was the best. We live in that. The only founding father that traveled this far west. The rest stayed on the coast. Isn't that interesting? I hope you'll learn a lot about what we're going to talk about today. You put your hands down, but I will need volunteers in a little bit. Here's the drumbeat of freedom, but this drum here is not held by anyone. The bald eagle stands on it because freedom isn't free. The freedoms that we enjoy are not. And every generation needs to pick up the mantle if this idea of freedom and liberty and independence will continue not your job today, but that's why you're learning about it. So, the Declaration of Independence. One of the books that I read, of many, and I traveled to all the locations the Declaration of Independence traveled to, and I also read books before I did my illustrations. And this book is called Signing Their Lives Away. The fame and misfortune of the men who signed the Declaration of Independence. Ladies, did you hear what I just said? What did I say? Were there any women who signed the Declaration of Independence? There were not. That's one of the things the Declaration of Independence has made us do. It compels us to rethink and renew, even though they couldn't do it all in the very beginning. So, do you like the cover of this book? Yeah. Well, there's not too many pictures on it, but let me show you how it works. There's the Declaration of Independence. Can I have a volunteer? Could you hold this up for me? Would you mind? Yes. Well, this is actually been an engraving made. That's one of the reasons why we can barely see the Declaration, because there was a copy made of it. They couldn't put it in a Xerox machine and copy it. Won't work. It's not they can make a copy back in the old days. The signatures are all here at the bottom. And the Declaration is a little bigger than this. But what I'd like to read to you is what it says. I'm not going to read all of it, but I hope someday you do read it all. It begins like this. In Congress, July 4, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13th United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them to another, and to assume among the powers of earth the separation and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. I'm going to skip on to the next part. We hold these truths to be self-evident: that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Happiness? What's so important about happiness? Is happiness important to you? Happiness? I mean, awesome. Do you like to be happy? So do I. We get to pursue it. That's what this says here. They said to do that, but it also says we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Did it say women? No. Do you think they meant women? No. Could they have said that all men and women are created equal? Yes. They didn't say that. They are endowed by the Creator with certain rights. They're given to them by their Creator, not by one man to another. These words didn't need to be included, but they're there because the rest of it says things like this about the king. He has refused, blah, blah, blah. He has forbidden, blah, blah, blah. He has refused. He has called together. He has dissolved. He has refused. He has endeavored. He has obstructed. He has made. He has erected. He has kept. And he has combined. And at the end of this, it says, and for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. Every man that signed this declaration was a traitor. Great Britain. They were a traitor. And for signing this document, they could be hung. Signing this wasn't anything done lightly. Even though the king was an ocean away, we, as a new nation, were going to take arms against the most powerful nation at that time on the face of the earth. It wasn't us. We had no navy. We had no standing army. And we were going to fight. Great. Good idea, right? Thank you very much. That's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And so let's go into it. We can put down the lights now. And I'm going to switch out of my drawing to my presentation. And this is the book. And this is the book Up Close. Now, the eagle that I drew before for you is based off the eagle. Does the eagle walk in a parade?
No.
Does the eagle hold up the Declaration of Independence in any parade? No, but it works okay for this book. And of course, the Declaration of Independence is right here. You can go on your computer, look up the government website, and you can actually look at the Declaration of Independence without traveling to Washington, D.C., and without going through all that security and waiting in those long lines to get to see it, but it won't be. Well, you have to do the math. It was written in 1776, but you'll find out that it wasn't actually signed on that day. It was signed in August. But that's okay. When we take a look at this, you can see all these words here. This is the original. And when we pan to the very bottom of the page, you can see signatures. Now, on the cover of this book, it says, if you want to read about the signers of this book, it says the fame and misfortune. Because after the assignment, not all of them have fortunate lives. If you want to find out about their lives, you'll be able to read it in that book. The largest signature on the page was by a man named John. And his last name, do you know his last name? Yes. John Hancock. He was a president of the Continental Congress, people who gathered in Philadelphia, and he wanted to sign his name so large that you wouldn't need spectacles to read his name. So he made it very bold. Now when we say, put your John Hancock on the document, we refer to how big he signed it here. It's right in the center. If you cannot see it, I'm going to highlight it. It's right there. It's barely there, but there it is. Now, when it came time to illustrate this book, I didn't write it. But I love American history, and I went to the library and I got a book out about political cartooning. And you can see here, gentlemen, take a good look. You will see it says, from the earliest times to present, over 700 examples from the world's greatest cartoons. Do you know what this book is going to have inside? Cartoons! Is that a good book?
Yes.
I like it. The very first editorial cartoon ever printed in a newspaper was this one. And this is our famous statue lady that's in New York Harbor. Yes. Well, who is it? But we don't have the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor yet because we don't have New York, we don't have the United States. But we've got Lady Liberty. Why is she a lady? I don't know. But maybe we could find out. Do you know? Do you know this for a fact? Okay, I'm not going to take your word for it 100%, but I think you're on the trail. And if I were you, I might look that up a little bit more. We do have a lady here, and you notice she's strapped. She's got ropes holding her from side to side. She was drawn by an artist named Henri Damier. You know this artist, right? And he did many, many, many paintings, but he was also a cartoonist. He was a caricaturist, painter, sculptor, and the father of the editorial cartoon. This is the first cartoon printed in the newspaper. It was during the French Revolution, and they felt that on both sides they were pulling the Republic of France apart. Editorial cartoons convey meaning with picture symbols. That's why we've got not the words liberty, but we've got a person as a figure representing liberty, like the Statue of Liberty shows welcomes all huddled masses to our shores. Let's hope it's still the same for them. So, another symbol. Who is this? Yes, who is that? And what does Uncle Sam represent? The United States. So when you draw Uncle Sam, you don't have to say what that's about, do you? That's the magic of editorial because we're using a symbol. Uncle Sam is it's a what? It's a cartoon symbol of the United States. Got it? Do you really understand picture symbols? Well, they're really important because they allow us to summarize. So this is a picture of, what is this? Yes. And what is that a symbol of? Symbol of Ohio? Is that your mascot of the school? Do you have a different mascot here?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's the Monroe jet.
It's a what?
It's a jet.
It's a jet. Okay. So that's your symbol, but this is a symbol of what? Freedom. And, well, is it an editorial cartoon? No. It could have been printed on a beer bottle. And that's not an editorial cartoon. But this is. This is an editorial cartoon. And this is the bald eagle. Who's the bald eagle represent? The United States. And it's saying fat chance, and it says down in the newspaper news, American bald eagle, soon off the endangered list. What does that mean? What does that mean? It's not endangered. Do you think it looks like it's endangered? Do you think it'll be off the endangered list anytime soon?
No.
Do you see how this picture symbol is saying all of that with the magic of pictures? You could write all these words to summarize that picture, but that picture says it on its own. That's the power of picture symbols. I'm going to move on because I'm going to use that bald eagle in my journals and sketchbooks because I'm going to draw a bald eagle to be a symbol. This is not a book about an editorial cartoon, but I want to draw the bald eagle that could be that symbol that could carry the Declaration of Independence. And then I enlarged that and drew it on vellum. This is vellum right here. This is a pad of vellum. It's transparent paper. It looks like that. So I'm drawing it, and I'm using pencil to do my drawing. It's transparent so you can see through it, and I'll put some drawings underneath it so I don't use a light table when I'm redrawing. I will then add color to it by, sometimes I need to get to my drawings in a better angle, so I'll flip them upside down. And then I'll turn them right side up. I'll also flip them over on the back side and add color to vellum so it'll underpaint my image, giving an impression of color that I want the rest of the color to be fulfilled when I reverse it to the other side. When I flip it to the other side, that color comes through like this. That allows me to do my drawing without having to worry about my pencil drawing being messed up by the ink or the brush. It separates it. So now you can see what the picture on the title page looks like. And this picture is about what? Yes. It's a little about freedom. And the subject of this drawing is what? What is the subject? Yes. Exactly. It's this. And you see the Declaration is underneath a jar. Was it underneath a jar when you saw it in Washington, D.C.? No, it was behind glass, right? This is glass, but this is back in the day your ideas may be underclass. And this idea that this dynamic of the words that are written here are more alive with it. So how do you understand the aliveness of that? Well, when the Declaration of Independence was written, it was read. There were about less than 20 copies that were made. Now, when those were made, it was all typeset. Because that's how that was done. There was one original that was rolled up and kept, and the rest were set in type. When it was read in New York City, there's a statue of King George in the middle of the square. The people there that were not loyalists were so excited when they heard about the Declaration and what it said about us. They went to the statue of King George. They put ropes around that statue, and they pulled it. Now, that wasn't the end of it. Our country didn't have a treasury. Put your hand in your pocket. Now pull it out and show me nothing. That's how much money we have in our treasury. Nothing. So they took that statue and melted it down and made musket balls out of it. Made about 3,000 musket balls that we could use against King George's army. But remember, our treasury had. Now, it's really hard to get your mind around that today because we're not that way. So when I did my drawing of King George, I put him here. Now he's a giant, like in Gulliver's Travel. He's the giant, and the little people are the colonies. And if you notice down here at the very bottom, I've got New England here, and we go down to the opposite side to see Georgia. There's Georgia on that side. And the coast, I inverted that. So instead of normally we see New England up here and Georgia down here, I did it like New England here and Georgia over there. And the people here are 13 people, and they're all complaining King George. Now I like that drawing, I like the colors, but it wasn't quite finished. So I drew it again. I decided that King George looked too static on both of his feet, so I decided to tip him over.
Yeah.
So there's tipping over. And the bald eagle there is by his head. We fought that war for 9 years, so we gave King George a bad hair day for 9 years. And up until the wars we've been in recently, that was the longest war we were ever in. Now the map was a problem, because we normally don't read a map that way. I had to turn it on its side, like this, so you could actually read the map like the coast, so you can see New England here. And we would go down to about Georgia. And then we've got New England going down to Georgia. But if I flopped it this way, then King George would really be falling over. That wasn't going to work, so I did it this way. So King George is there. And then, of course, to get the names of the individual states, I put them right here. So there's Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. So we go all the way up to New England going that way. So let's go. Do you see Massachusetts? They're buried under snow now, but back then, that lady has a purple dress on and she's got a teacup in her hand. And when we see the whole picture, we see it represented like this. And we come up close to King George. There he is, getting a bad hair day. And he's not liking it. Now, because there are only men that sign the Declaration of Independence, I need to have 5 boys volunteer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you don't mind standing up here. And you need to face the audience. We're going to kind of center up here. All right. I'm going to give all of you names. So before you actually line up, I want to let you know that you can choose to move around if you want to move around. Okay, I'm going to give you 5 seconds. And if you want to move to a new place, you can move or forever stay where you're at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 and a half, 5. This is the committee of 5. Give yourself occupiable space. Round of applause for these volunteers. This committee of five, don't turn around, look at the screen. This committee of five was asked by the Continental Congress to create the Declaration of Independence. Got it? So the whole gathering here elected this subcommittee to do that work. All right, so here they are. I'm going to introduce, look forward at your audience. I'm going to introduce to you who these people are. Right over here is Roger, and he's representing this gentleman right here. This is Benjamin right here. This is Thomas. He's a very good writer. This is John. And right over here is Robert. And Robert's from New York. Now, you three here in the center, stay right where you are. I'm going to ask you to step forward. I'm going to ask you to step forward over here, Robert. These two gentlemen were on this committee, but when it came time to writing the Declaration of Independence, they had a problem. That same problem someone mentioned right over here, which was, are you crazy? Are you going to fight the world superpower? And you don't even have enough money to be able to have a militia, military, or arms to be able to defend yourself? These two said, do you know we're going to be fighting against an armada of ships that's so immense that when they're out in the harbor, they're going to look like those masts are going to be so plentiful, it's going to look like a forest. And they're going to be able to move their military up and down our coast and invade anywhere they want to go. You too said, we are not ready to be independent. That was a good argument. Do you understand their argument? I get it. Man, these two really get it. But we don't remember them in history very much because their idea was outvoted. Put up your hand for this. Give me 5 fingers. Now, put down 2, and we get 3 remaining. The vote of just one of these people behind outweighed these 2 members. You can sit down. Round of applause for the dissent. And now let me talk a little bit about these 3. This is Ben Franklin. All right, Ben. Ben, I've got a little job for you to do. While I talk about you, I want you to look through this book. People know you for your quotations, so take a look through there. Maybe you'll find one you want to read, or I'll read it. If you want me to read it, I can read it for you. Well, Ben was not president, but these 2 chaps right here, they became president number 2 and president number 3. Ben could have been president, but he was too old. So what happens, but Ben was also very wise. And of course, Ben, during most of the war, you traveled over to France. And that was really important because we needed money, because remember we had nothing in our pockets? Well, we got money in our pocket because of Ben. Ben went over, yes, and the ladies did like that. Yes. Well, Ben was famous. There was no one in the world more famous than Ben Franklin in his day. He was an inventor and famous, and there are many things you probably want to know more about Ben. Could you find a quote for me? Oh, I'm not going to. That's way too long. Let's see. What about one of these? You want to pick up? We'll come back. Pick out one of those. Now, over here, well, no, right over here, this guy, John Adams. See, John, he had this enormous brain. Yes, and he was really the kind of the brain of the operations. But you did something up in Massachusetts that really dumbfounded so many people. Remember that? You defended the massacre, the Boston Massacre. You defended the British. You defended what we called the leatherbacks. Oh no, the lobsterbacks is what we call them. The lobsterbacks because they look like lobsters and you've got something red on your suit to kind of fit it. Anyway, you defended them and you got them off. While your cousin Sam Adams said, we're going to stir them. So the war really begins up in New England, and And now, you're also, when it comes time to do the Declaration of Independence, you could have written it. But you know you needed Tom. Because Tom represented the wealthy estate, and that was Virginia. So this partnership, he said, I'll help you, Tom. But Tom, you're going to have to write it. And actually, Tom was a really good writer. And he wrote down the Declaration of Independence. But it was the preamble that's Ben, did you find what you want me to read? This one. From Ben. Really the one you want? At 20 years of age, the will begins. At 30, the wit. At 40, the judgment. What do you think, teachers? Is that a good one? Yes. Ben, the wise Benjamin, has spoken. Friends, any one of these men are worth knowing better than what you will get from your textbooks at school. That is excellent. But if you want to know really more about what makes these people work, you need to go to the library and read about them, or find a film about their lives. Because these gentlemen are worth knowing. But then, who said George Washington was your favorite person? Stand up. Was George Washington a signer of the Declaration of Independence?
No.
No, he was not. He was fighting in New England. He was finding an army and trying to make it work. But he didn't sign the Declaration of Independence. So you can sit down, George. But these guys sent George the Declaration and gave him direction. A round of applause for these three gentlemen. For me, I had to draw. So instead of drawing Abe Lincoln, what I have is a drawing of the three. I don't include all five, because the three primary ones are right here. I look at their portraits, and then I drew this quick sketch, added color, redrew it again like this. Now, Ben, where are you, Ben? Ben, you see, I haven't drawn your fingers very well yet, but I will. I will redraw them, and they'll look like this. Now, everybody that's looking in that window, that's us. And just like my friend over here that's gone to see the Declaration of Independence, we've been gawking at that document ever since. And it started from the very beginning. And I put a feather in John's hand, or in Thomas's hand, because he was considered to be the writer of the Declaration of Independence. In 1777, how old was our country? Who said that? Yes, we were 1 year old. Can you believe it? At one time, our country was just 1 year old, and our capital wasn't Washington, D.C. It didn't exist yet. Our capital was Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, I've got a baby, Uncle Sam. And you can know it's Uncle Sam because you can see his beard. You see a baby with a little beard? That's Uncle Sam. And he's celebrating right there in the middle. Fireworks. Right across the river, the British are coming. And they end up taking control of our capital later that summer, in September. Well, we've had more capitals than I can name. One of them was in New York City. I drew this placeholding sketch to show it because that building no longer exists. It would have been down by Wall Street. So I did some research online and in the library to find out what that building looked like. Well, there's Federal Hall, and you can see the church there in the background. That's still in and near Wall Street. And this is another picture of it, actually as the city grew. So I selected many drawings, narrowed it down to 2, and then from those 2, drew this. I put in a red sky because our country wasn't getting along. This is after the Declaration, and it was when we were doing the Bill of Rights. And our Congress wasn't getting along. And they are not getting along so much that they're headbutting. So what has changed in our country? Our politicians still butt heads. The War of 1812 began in the year of 1812. You got that right. Now, the White House was brand new. swampland all the way to the Potomac. And now I need to have a young lady volunteer. Now I'd like to introduce to you, but I need your attention. Maybe I need to use this. I'd like to introduce to you the First Lady. During the War of 1812, this was your home. Your name is Dolly Madison. And Dolly, you did many things that are important. Actually, this is a portrait of you right here. You added fashion to the White House. And you added a certain prestige to being the First Lady. Now, during the War of 1812, in your house, the British came. And they did burn your house down. Yes. Your husband had already left town along with Congress, but you were left. Now, everything is in your house, and the blockade down at the mouth of the Potomac had been broken, and the British were coming fast. Letters were sent to you, dispatches were sent, and you read them and said they won't be here within the hour. Clearly. And you, like everyone else, were surprised, but everybody else panicked. But you didn't. You went around and decided to be able to save what could be saved, and you saved George Washington. There was a painting of George Washington. You can see his picture, the rendering by Gilbert Stuart is on your dollar bill. But what happened was there's this painting of George in your house. Huge. And it was nailed to the wall, screwed into the wall. And you told one of the servants to take it out. And they couldn't remove it because it was anchored to the wall. Your house, anybody could go in, so you wanted to keep some things, and that was nailed to the wall, that was screwed to the wall, and it couldn't be taken off. So he said, no problem. He gave the servant a knife, and he said, cut it out of the frame. And it was. It was rolled into the back and put into a linen sack, along with the Declaration of Independence. And it was sent to Leesburg, Virginia, 35 miles down the road, with lots of other important things. So, George, stand up, please. This is the picture of George that was saved by Dolly. All right, round of applause. And what do you think George should have said to you, Dolly? What do you think? Okay, say it. Yes. That's a very polite thing to do. Because, of course, Dolly, this happened to your house. The White House was burned to the ground. All the way. And if your portrait would have been in there, you would have been just ashes. My drawing looks like this. And you will notice 35 miles down the road, still today, you can find Leesburg, Virginia. In the back of a hay wagon, that's where the Declaration was put in a linen sack, in disguise. It escaped out of town. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see it. And this is what the picture looks like in color. The house that it was put in still exists, and a regular family lives in it, and it's right there. Round of applause for our players. So much of our story is left yet untold about the Declaration of Independence and how it changed our life. And now we come to Abe Lincoln. During the time that Abe Lincoln was in office, our country fought against itself in the great horror called the Civil War. The Capitol dome was completed during that time because Abe Lincoln felt we will be unified. More than 500,000 Americans died in that war. More than all the wars we fought added together. We, of course, were killing each other. And our president, Abe Lincoln, was assassinated. We were fighting for the words that were embedded in the preamble of the Declaration of Independence. Remember those equal rights? All men are created equal. Well, people died trying to figure that out. And this is the picture I show. It's a great chasm. The flag looked like this, called the Sumter flag. I need to know that so I can put the right amount of flag, the number of stars on the flag. Our country is torn in half, but is healed after the war. So So much of our story, even this, when we turned 100 years old. A special flag was made that looked like this, 1776, 1876. The Declaration was read at Independence Hall, the place it was born. And when I did my picture, I made all the flags have 1776, 1876 on it. We go on to the day we entered World War II. Quickly, what I did was my dad was in that war. I went down to Target and I bought a Sherman tank because he fought along General Patton. I took a photograph of it, redrew it like this. I added the Enola Gay, which is the plane that dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. I added Rosie in the back because that was when women won the war on the home front. And then in making the art, I used my pencil mixed media and added layer upon layer to make the art for this and all the pages in the book. Rosie's in the background. She wasn't allowed to fight a war, but she built the airplanes. She made all the ammunition, everything the men did and used was done by Rosie. Rosie had a can-do attitude. Women, ladies, do you? Put your hand to your side. I need George Washington to lead this chant. I need you to say, I'm going to show you what you need to say here. Come on up. I'll say it with you. We need to say this together. Can you say that? Ready? Come up your arm up to the side. We'll say it first, and then you repeat it after us. We can do it. Ready? We can do it. But that's pretty wimpy. They can do better. Come on, bring them along. Ready?
We can do it!
And they did. Thank you. The Declaration of Independence has a home sweet home. It's in the National Archive building on Pennsylvania Avenue, just down from the White House. When it was first put on display, it was above everything else. Now it's alongside. Without this document, we couldn't have the Emancipation Proclamation. We couldn't have anything else. It all begins with the Declaration. And of course, who holds it up? Who holds it up? Is that the only thing you see? Who holds it up? Someone said it. You do. You hold it up. And if you don't know what you're holding, you've got a little more work to do. Because it's not just about the parades on the 4th of July. It's about freedom that's not free. It's about figuring out what that means for us and those big members of our world family. The Declaration of Independence has its own story, and my cover was inspired by this painting called The Spirit of 1776, done after the Civil War by Archibald Willard, a parade that still continues. Because, after all, even if we lost that piece of paper, the Declaration of Independence will always be alive in the hearts of the American people. Now, long ago, when that statue went down of King George, the people didn't say hooray, because they didn't say hooray back then. They said huzzah. Have you heard that before? Huzzah. Well, we can say it, and we need to end this session by saying 3 huzzahs. So George, come back up, our first president and leader, and we're going to do 3 huzzahs, as big and as loud as we can. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Huzzah!